And good night, everyone. This is update for April 2, 2022, day 38 of the war. As heads up for all those people who are super impatient, there is pretty much no movements on the front line today. So this is probably one of the sort of call it slowest moving day in the whole since the beginning of the war that we have observed. Really not much is happening. So if you really want to skip, you're welcome to skip. For those who want to actually learn more, you are welcome to stay. What we're going to discuss mostly what's going on in Izyum. Then we have some information on losses of the first and second Army Corps here, these guys here. And then we have more information on Mariupol. So this is going to be our main topics. And also we're going to discuss a little bit more what happened here in the northern Ukraine, because there are still a lot of questions from people. They're still trying to understand what happened there. So we're going to start actually with the north to kind of like finally sort of have a final kind of conversation about this. So the question was, okay, so like why Russians withdrew their troops? Why did it happen in the first place? So the reason it happened is think this way. So they kind of have two pincers, right? That were trying to encircle Kiev, right, and conquer Kiev. And the whole idea was from the very beginning that Ukrainian army will not fight, Ukrainian people also will not fight, and Ukrainian government will just flee. And that whole logic was proven to be wrong from the very beginning, because Ukrainian army was fighting, Ukrainian people were fighting, and Ukrainian government didn't flee. So as a result, so this was, as we discussed before, this was all structured as police operation, not really a war. And this is actually admitted even by Russians right now, that they realize that this is actually war and not a police pacifying operation in Ukraine. So as such, it was structured in that way as a police operation, that just two groups except they were using army to execute it, right? Not just police, even though there was quite significant amount of police there, which is called Sober. And there is this 141st Regiment, Battalion South, and so on. This is like from Chechnya. So so what happens is this one pincer got stuck here west of Kiev, couldn't really encircle Kiev, couldn't finish its move, right? And the same happens here with the second one. So it got stuck, and mostly they all got stuck because of Ukrainian militia. Because if you're really saying there was not many Ukrainian brigades in the first place to defend, so the first tank brigade was actually really in Chernihiv, so it wasn't even there. 10th Brigade came really towards the end, and the same kind of happened with 58s as well. So there was only really from the beginning 14th Brigade and 72nd Brigade. So really totally not much. If you're really saying this group of units, this one, the western one, let's call it Group West, right? Just to make it simple. So here, this is 3 airborne divisions, so roughly 27,000 people, right? Then look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say 5, right? 5. Let's do very rough calculation. 5 by 4, it's another 20,000, so it's 47,000, right? And we probably overestimated number, so let's just kind of write off the rest of it, right? Because Special Forces Brigade is probably 1,500 people, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,200, maybe 1,700, not really much. Sober is probably another 2,000. This is another 2.5. So if we overestimate here, then it's going to compensate for it. So let's say they had in total authorized personnel about 47,000, right, on the western side. And this is for, by the way, they didn't have it that number at all in the first place, because not all units came at the same time, right? So some units suffered losses and so on. So this peak of 47,000 was never reached, but it probably was somewhere closer to 42,000, something like that. And then let's look how many here were in this eastern pincer. So we have, 3 divisions here, which is 30,000, and then 4 here. So let's call it another 15,000. Right, so it's like 45,000. Not all of them was, next to Kiev, because they used 2 divisions to hold this whole long bridge, and actually some of this one. But the whole number of units was the whole number of soldiers was close to let's call it 90,000, right? So the whole thing was 90,000 of Russian troops stuck here around Kyiv and couldn't do much, right? And every single day costs probably couple, like 2, 3, 4, 500 troops lost, plus equipment. But we don't even talk about equipment, because Russia has no problems with equipment, so it's totally not even worth discussing, right? The only true meaningful losses are human side, right? Like soldiers. So they were stuck there and they were bleeding. So basically it's a death by 1,000 cuts. They couldn't accomplish the objective of taking Kyiv, right? So what are they doing here, right? They stuck with 90,000, and in total they had about 200, right? They have here in Ukraine. And so then they were severely lacking exactly this 90,000 to actually make decisive changes here in the Donetsk region, right? Or take Kharkiv. So basically, it was exactly what's not enough to make significant, victories or progress, elsewhere in the eastern Ukraine or southern Ukraine. And these troops were stuck there doing nothing, just slowly dying. So eventually, Russian, general staff came to rational conclusion: let's get out, because we cannot accomplish our goal. And if, let's say, if they actually came into Kyiv, which would be a very smart idea by Ukrainian side to let them into Kyiv, that would totally turn into complete disaster, because most of them will get, like, all of the equipment will get burned. There will be like a lot of losses, and this is 90,000 is totally not enough to conquer, almost 4 million size city. So they would just kind of get dissolved in the city. They would not have any thrust to hit into. They would just be literally dissolved in the city and into small pockets and slowly destroyed. So they couldn't really. There was, in the first place, kind of not very intelligent move. And then Russian general staff finally realized that this is really actually what's happening. Probably they were late, about 2 or 3 weeks late. But as they say, it's better late than never. And then they just realized this, and they decided to withdraw all of these troops out, because they were simply losing. And the way actually they did it, there is something clever about how they did it. So they came to the negotiation meeting with Ukrainian side to Turkey. It was beginning of this week, and they probably offered the bargain to Ukrainian side, saying, "Okay, we're gonna withdraw from northern Ukraine, and you're gonna show to your population, hey, we've got this huge victory. This is liberation, and in return, you will allow us to safely disengage." Right, which is exactly what happened. They disengage without any problems, because all of these brigades, they have long range howitzers, right, 122, and they all self-propelled, 152, 122. So this could be really devastating for Russian troops if Ukrainian troops did not allow disengagement. Right, there would be a lot of losses. They still suffered, by the way, losses in terms of a lot of equipment simply failed. It was abandoned on the way out. So regardless, they lost some equipment, but they could have like really catastrophic losses. So in a way, it was kind of like, the agreement between Ukrainian government. I wouldn't say it's Ukrainian people, Ukrainian army, and in our view, it was a mistake. But regardless, this was done, and this is what really happened in our view. Some people said like, yeah, there were some ambushes. Yes, there were a few ambushes here on the eastern side. But they were exceptions. We're just aware of two small, tiny ambushes. Like, think about this. This is roughly how many? We said 45,000 troops. Well, they probably have less because of the losses and everything, but let's say it's like 38,000, right? Leaving. And, like two tiny ambushes, like you realize that this is really not moving the needle. So, and this is probably was initiative on the ground on from the troops, where probably commanders couldn't fully control what's happening. So this is our view on what really happened here in the northern Ukraine. So now what's going on? There is big, huge reshuffling going on, right? So Russian side totally controls the initiative of the whole war. Ukrainian side doesn't have an initiative. It's more reactive to what Russian side is doing. And obviously Russian side is reshuffling, and they want to use some of these troops, here on the east, right? And the south as well. So as we discussed before, in our view, most of this Western group is really suffered, enough casualties not to make them immediately deployable on the front lines. Let's put this way. Some of the eastern part could still be deployed, even if it's like at the regimental level, like for example, 90th Division or 2nd or 4th Tank Division. They probably can be used at the regimental level. So basically kind of like throw them piecemeal. Right, and these brigades, they didn't suffer that many losses. These 4 brigades, so can easily probably redeployed here in the eastern Ukraine or southern Ukraine. So this is whole picture of. That's why it's so quiet right now, because Russian troops are really regrouping, and it's because of the distances, and they really need to replenish everything, resupply, just logistically it takes time. So probably could be, not worse, but like longest, we would not be surprised if it's like for a week it will be relatively quiet on the front lines in general. I mean, we're not saying there's not going to be fighting, but there won't be any major movement, simply because all of the forces right now here are more and less in balance. So to make things out of balance, you need to throw more Russian troops, and this is probably what will happen from this. But this, in our view, is not really actually like decisive amount of troops that that can really tilt the situation in the Russian favor here, because obviously Ukrainian side will throw some of the brigades, as well here. So what we also learning that Russian kind of like let's say like local commanders, they are telling to the civilians in this whole Donbass region that's under Ukrainian control, they tell them to leave immediately, to just literally leave, because they just literally say that there will be very devastating fighting here, that they're going to unleash all of the power of artillery, of multiple rocket launchers, air bombing, everything they can, rockets. So what this really tells is that Russian side does not have much of manpower to create huge advantage here. So they're going to be relying more on, call it, equipment to actually destroy Ukrainian troops here, rather than building up significant manpower advantage. So there will be advantage, there's no question about it, but it's not going to be huge advantage or significant one. There is also option for the Russian side. They have about 130,000 of conscripts that are finishing kind of their cycle in this April. They getting released, and what we think is going to happen is they probably will, like Russian army will try to sign them up as they will ask them to sign contracts, right? So let's say we estimate, like this is just ballparking, that probably 20% of them will sign that contract, and majority probably will not, because they realize that they're going to to war to Ukraine, where there is a very high chance to die. And so 20% probably gives them, like, let's say 25,000 of troops. So this is really more or less just enough to refill the losses. So the Russian side is really not increasing significantly there, even if they use all of this conscript, not all of them, but this 20% of conscripts. They're not really creating huge manpower advantage over Ukraine, because Ukraine in all of this time is also preparing, training their conscripts, and they also have all of this militia that's kind of was trained by war. And to be fair, many of them died because they were not trained. But at this point, this is the survival of the fittest. So whoever survived is probably better ones. And so they could go into ranks of all of these brigades. So really, it's at this point, it does look to us that, obviously Russians will try to kind of buff up their ranks, but they will not be able to create sort of decisive advantage over Ukrainian sides, for sure. So what they will be relying is actually on aviation, artillery, and rockets. And that's what they will try to do here in this kind of northern Donbass part and part of the Kharkiv region. So this is what's our expectation of what's going to be happening here, maybe in a week or 5 days, 4 days. With nobody knows for sure. So, and this is actually the relevant. Let's talk now a little bit about the official losses of the 1st and 2nd Army Corps, because this is actually gives us a little bit kind of clue about the losses in general in this war. So we're talking about this just these two corpses, so the official losses that were disclosed today is that they lost about 800 dead and 3.6 thousand in wounded. So that gives us 4.4 thousand of total losses. And this is obviously, we're 100% sure that this is like low estimate, basically, because they're not disclosing, the credibility is not quite there with them, and they have all incentives to kind of report lower losses than what they really have. And so that really means that at least one brigade is wiped out completely. And they had 7 brigades here, right? They had 4 brigades in 1st Army Corps and 3 here in the 2nd one. So basically, 1 brigade is wiped out already, a little bit even more than 1 brigade. And in our view, realistically, what's really happening is probably you can safely double those losses. So out of 7 brigades, they really probably have 5 and the change, right? So, and then we're also corroborating this is actually what we're hearing from, just like frontline commanders on the Russian side, is all of those people who were fighting since 2014, basically like hardcore veterans on their side. They got all expanded in all of this attacks west of Donetsk and towards Severodonetsk. So basically, the new kind of like replenishment, or the troops that's kind of left here, are less experienced, basically, right? So majority of the, call it hardcore veterans, are at this point kind of dead on the Russian side. I'm not saying everybody, but they lost significant, probably 70-80% of them, right? So so this becomes very lot less experience. And just for example, when the type of people you have here, sort of non-experience, is like people who were conscripted, like on the 25th of February, or on 28th of February, and they were school guard, or children entertainer, or things like that, librarian. Like, you can imagine what kind of level of troops those people are. So this is what's really happening with these two army corps here. So this is all this whole one big discussion that we had, and now we're gonna just quickly look at the front lines, just to kind of reiterate what's happening here. So this is its situation in Izyum, and this is big picture, right? So what we were saying before, that third mechanized division was deployed here along with 47th Tank Division. So they are actively trying to expand this bridgehead. And let's actually look a little bit more. They did expand it quite a bit, as you can see here. And we see very actively the Russian side is pumping troops into this bridgehead, which really means that they want to really break out of it, like really totally create like breakout opportunity. And we believe that they really focus on Barvinkova, and we'll probably will look at the bigger map why this is more important than Slavyansk. Even psychologically for them, Slavyansk is more important, but from a strategic and truly like in terms of meaning and results, Barvinkova is actually more important. So it's actually it will be interesting to see which one they go after, psychological kind of victory or actually strategic victory. But anyways, they really pumping up troops in this. And then what Ukrainian side did, and this is probably done, we don't even know how, but nevertheless they did it. There are like there's a dam here. You see, this is like one big artificial lake that's for hydropower generation. This probably this hydropower station here. So they blew up this dam here, and the water flooded this whole area from about here to all of like here. So this is, even like with pontoon bridges, is essentially impossible. So what Russians are relying on is only this bridge near Donetsk. So this is kind of like they're becoming their lifeline at this point, because this is all essentially flooded all the way probably here. So this is totally impossible at this point. But from what we're seeing, there's like huge columns of troops. Even this is just one bridge. It's apparently still enough for them to pump up enough troops to try to do breakout. So far, there are no updates from either side on what's happening. We're assuming there's a very fierce fighting going on with a lot of casualties on both sides. But that's kind of what's going on right now here. And the reason this Barvinkova is more important, because if you hit here, you're kind of getting deeper into Ukrainian rear, and then this allows you to kind of slice through this whole thing easier, as opposed to, because these troops are tied up there, so it will take some time to kind of like turn them around and try to kind of prevent this encirclement. So that's why the Barvinkova is much better strategic goal in general. So let's now look at what's going on here. Like totally stalemate, nothing is really happening here. The Russians are not even trying anymore to attack Avdiivka, and Marinka is just shelling. So what they ended up doing is that they lost a lot of soldiers, and they decided now to use artillery to kind of flatten this whole stuff here. and actually it's probably not going to work, by the way, for them, because Ukrainian side created a lot of trenches and strongholds here. It's just like huge, like a anthill of strongholds and things like that. And there are also well, I'm not even sure what's the name of it. Basically, there are a lot of coal mines here, and they produce a lot of kind of like byproduct, and it's kind of creating artificial kind of hills. So there's a lot of those here that could be very good natural defensive points. So this can last here, this fight, for a really long time. So now let's actually look at Mariupol again. So this is updated map, and this is for those from Russian side who watch this and always complain. This is actually created based on information from the Russian side. So what happened today, that Russian actually side is saying, oh, we actually don't even control this steel mill, which is under number 2. So Mariupol has 2 large, huge steel mills. One is Azovstal, which is under number 1, right? And the second one is called Ilyich, which is after Lenin, basically. And this is under number 2. And if you remember, like probably 3, 4, 5 days ago, Russian troops were claiming, oh, we control this Kalmiuski district, which is where this steel mill is. And we kind of took it for like, okay, face value. We kind of know that this is almost always wrong, but we didn't have proof to otherwise, so we didn't want to kind of fight. We didn't even put it for that reason, if you remember. But now they came out and said, oh, actually, Ukrainian troops control all of this. So this is actually our kind of attempt to recreate as good map as possible. What we do know here, there's this called Avenue, Metallurgiv Avenue, this one, this road. And so we do know that for sure that Russian troops control it, and they probably control, another quarter in from that avenue. So this is probably where the front line goes here. Here we know more or less for sure that this is where it is. From what we know today, there was not much progress here at all. So we just kind of stalemate. So this is kind of, we know this for sure. We know this is this one as well for sure. Now we know this one is controlled by Ukrainian troops. So this is kind of how the whole front line looks. This is very uncertain here, but this is probably more or less correct. We don't have like 100%. We're not 100% certain about this one, but we're pretty sure that, this was not, direction of Russian attacks. So it really means that Ukrainian troops stay there more or less. And then we just know that they came to the perimeter of Azovstal, and they started only trying to get into it. So today on this side. So really, this is really the most updated map that we have so far. And as you can see, yes, the Russian troops made good progress in some area, but they very far from capturing Mariupol. And technically, if Ukrainian side gets supplies, this can last actually for another several months here. And what we even observing is that the Russian troops, just like a soldier morale is they're not trying anymore to go in attack as aggressively, because they're realizing that it's like kind of like probably April 1945 in Berlin, when you just don't want to die because probably this whole thing is going to be over in a month or less. They probably hope that it's going to be a lot less, and you just don't want to really die in the last days of April. And so for that reason, there wasn't even much progress today on the Russian side. What else is really many people don't realize, that number of Russian troops attacking all of this is not more than 18,000. Let's put this way. And what this really means, it's a large city, right? It's 500,000 population, and just not even population wise, just from the area coverage it has. It's big city just because of this 2 steel mills. That's what really makes it really big. And so because of that, you can even see that Russian troops, they're not even trying to attack here or here or here. They don't have enough basically there's not enough saturation with their troops to really attack everywhere. So they just pick two axes because they just don't have enough troops to truly attack this whole, like, to do proper attack on the city. So they try to just kind of like take what sort of like location that would allow them to claim, oh, we have control of the city. So like the center of the city, right? Railroad, probably port somewhere here, right? And then also claiming this Azovstal kind of allows them to say, oh, we control everything. We really kind of took the city. But really what this also means that Ukrainian, it's like this whole city allows you to play game of cat and cat and mouse here, which means like Ukrainian troops can, fight here, then regroup, go somewhere else. Russian troops come here, then they, Ukrainian troops come, attack from the flank or from the back, from the rear, because there is not enough density of troops. You can always move, if you move around, if you're not just rigid in your defense, you can always kind of like sort of move around and attack. And as long as you have supplies of ammunition and medical supplies and so on, you can kind of fight play this game really long time, which is why this has been happening so long, because there is just not enough Russian troops to truly to have enough density to kind of create seamless front lines where, like, that nobody can literally leave and so on. And we just really realized this, kind of was thinking about this today. And for that reason, when we said, like, if all of the, Ukrainian side is running low on ammunition, we're pretty certain that they're going to just do breakout attempts. And this front line is like a Swiss cheese. There are tons of holes here just because there is not enough density of Russian troops. So probably not everybody will be successful breaking out. Well, we can guarantee you that at least 50% or more will break out just for that reason. So this is situation in Mariupol. Now let's have a quick look. This is like actually more close-in map from yesterday. Nothing really has changed here, so this is all still valid. And this is where, if you look at the center, they're approaching close to the railroad and port and so on, and they essentially captured majority of the center of the city. Now let's have a quick look here on the south. The situation here is total stalemate, so there is no really, meaning Russian troops trying to attack here towards Polohi, the stronghold, but there is, to our information, there is not much progress here. We don't even hear here in Kherson area, we don't even hear about any Ukrainian attacks. Probably, hopefully, Ukrainian side realized that this is hopeless and it's really not helpful. So this is it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow. Thanks again. Bye-bye.